there's a kind of silence that follows regret, a silence that no apology can fill. It's the silence that hits a woman long after she thought she had it all figured out. The man she once dismissed, overlooked, or took for granted is now the one she can't forget. She thought he'd always be there, patient, forgiving, waiting in the background. But one day, without warning, he stopped trying. He didn't yell, he didn't chase, he didn't explain. He simply withdrew his energy, quietly, completely, and with finality. And that's when the pain begins. Nothing hurts a woman more than losing the man she didn't value. Not because she suddenly needs him, but because she finally sees him. For the first time, she realizes that what she lost wasn't attention, it was presence. It wasn't validation, it was stability. The man she ignored was not weak, he was patient. The one she underestimated wasn't desperate, he was devoted. And when a woman realizes that too late, her ego collapses under the weight of her own misjudgment. You see, female psychology isn't driven by logic. It's driven by emotional contrast. As long as a man is chasing, she feels secure in his desire. But when he disappears without resentment, when he walks away in silence, she feels a kind of loss her mind can't rationalize. It's not about missing him. It's about missing the version of herself that existed in his calm energy. His absence becomes a mirror reflecting everything she took for granted. His consistency, his patience, his quiet strength. This is the moment where attraction reverses, when the man she dismissed becomes the standard she compares every new man to. And none of them measure up, because what she lost wasn't just love, it was peace. And once a woman tastes the calm of a grounded man, the kind who doesn't beg, doesn't break, doesn't bend, she can't forget it. She might pretend she's moved on, but deep inside the regret remains. In this video, we'll uncover the hidden truth behind that regret. We'll explore the psychology of loss, how women process absence, and why walking away with dignity rewires her entire perception of you. You'll learn why silence carries more emotional weight than words, how detachment turns into power, and why the greatest revenge is not anger, it's evolution. Because when a man finally stops trying to be understood and starts being unbothered, everything changes. He doesn't just walk away from her, he walks toward himself. And that moment, the quiet, controlled, irreversible moment when she realizes she can't reach him anymore, is the one that hurts her the most. Before we start, a quick reminder. The real transformation doesn't happen on YouTube. It happens inside the community. If these videos have opened your eyes, what's inside will rebuild your mindset completely. It's not just a course, it's a brotherhood, a private space where men master attraction, emotional control, and the psychology of power. You don't join for a month, you join for life. Every future course, book, and lesson is yours forever. No subscriptions, no limits, just one decision that changes your direction. If you're serious about growth, discipline, and purpose, click the link below. Join the community. Enroll once, grow forever. Let's dive in. Section 1. The moment. She realizes what she lost. It doesn't happen right away. When a man walks away from a woman who never valued him, she doesn't feel the loss instantly. At first, there's relief, a quiet confidence that she made the right choice, that she still holds the power. Her ego whispers that he'll come back eventually, that he can't possibly stay silent forever. And for a while, she believes it. But time has a way of revealing truths that emotion tries to bury. The calls stop coming. The messages fade. The energy that once chased her now moves in silence. And that's when something shifts, not in her mind, but in her chest. The void begins to speak. You see, the first stage of regret isn't sorrow, it's confusion. She can't understand why the attention stopped, Why the man who once cared so deeply now seems unreachable. She scrolls through old messages, not because she misses him yet, but because she's trying to decode his silence. Every unanswered text becomes heavier. Every day that passes without his presence becomes a reminder that she may have overestimated her importance. That's the moment her perception begins to turn. What she once saw as weakness, his patience, his emotional depth, his consistency, now looks like strength. And what she thought was power, her ability to control the dynamic, begins to feel like emptiness. She starts realizing that the peace she once had in his presence wasn't ordinary. It was rare. Because the truth is, a man who gives without demanding, who listens without judging, who loves without losing his identity, is not common. And when he's gone, she starts to understand the difference between attention and presence. Presence can't be replaced. It lingers in her mind like a ghost. Not loud, not obvious, but impossible to ignore. It's in the quiet moments before she sleeps, when she feels a sudden urge to check if he's still watching her stories. It's in the laughter of other men that doesn't sound as genuine, in their eyes that don't hold the same calm. She begins to realize that what she thought was endless was actually fragile. She mistook patience for permanence, and that realization hurts in silence. Because pride doesn't allow her to admit it. So she keeps up the performance, pretending she's fine, that she's moved on, that she's happy. But inside, her subconscious is replaying one simple truth. She lost a man who had already forgiven her, understood her, and still chose to walk away anyway. And that kind of loss doesn't fade. It grows louder with time. That's when she finally begins to feel it. Not the loss of a relationship, but the loss of a presence that once anchored her world. The man she didn't value has now become the mirror of everything she's missing. And it's only then, when it's too late, that she realizes she never really had control at all. Section 2. The silent regret. How absence rewrites memory. Regret doesn't arrive like a storm. It creeps in quietly, disguised as reflection. At first, she tells herself she made the right decision, that losing you was part of moving forward. She fills the silence with distractions, new faces, conversations, validation from people who don't understand her history. But as time passes, those things lose their power. The thrill fades. The attention feels shallow. And suddenly, she starts to notice the one thing that lingers in every moment of stillness. Your absence. Absence is powerful because it rewrites the story she tells herself. When you were present, she could focus on your flaws, on what she didn't like, on the things she thought she could do without. But once you're gone, her mind starts reconstructing the narrative. And this time, it edits with emotion, not logic. The arguments become less important. The small annoyances disappear. What stands out now are the moments that felt safe. The tone of your voice when you spoke calmly. The steadiness in your presence when she was falling apart. That's how absence changes memory. It filters pain and highlights peace. In female psychology, emotional contrast creates attachment. When you were there, your consistency was invisible. It was expected. But now that it's missing, she begins to feel the weight of what stability truly meant. Every man she meets after you amplifies that realization. The lack of depth, the absence of composure, the missing emotional gravity. And slowly she begins to understand that what she thought was boring was actually peace, and what she thought was control was actually immaturity. That understanding doesn't come with tears at first. It comes with discomfort. A subtle ache that grows sharper with every memory she replays. She starts to feel something she can't easily name. It's not sadness, and it's not love. It's recognition. She recognizes your worth only when she no longer has access to it. And that's what makes absence so powerful. It turns the man she overlooked into the man she can't forget. Because in silence, your energy becomes amplified. She begins to feel your calm, even though you're not around. She starts to realize that your peace was her anchor, and now that it's gone, she's adrift. Regret deepens when she realizes she can't just walk back into your world. The version of you that once waited is no longer there. You've evolved, detached, and redirected your focus. That emotional distance isn't revenge, it's growth. And that growth creates a mirror she can't escape. It forces her to face the truth that what she devalued was never weak. It was rare. That's how absence works. It doesn't just make people miss you, it makes them see you differently. It redefines their memory of you until they realize that losing you wasn't losing comfort. It was losing balance. And that's the kind of regret that doesn't fade with time. It deepens with awareness. Section 3. Why women value what they lose. Too late. The hardest lessons are always learned in silence. For a woman, true value often becomes visible only after it's gone. When a man leaves quietly, without anger or spectacle, his absence creates a void her mind can't ignore. At first, she tells herself she's fine, that she's free, that he was replaceable. Yet the more she repeats those words, the less she believes them. Because deep inside, she feels something she can't articulate, not longing, not guilt, but a strange, aching recognition that she misjudged something rare. The truth is, people rarely appreciate what's consistent. Stability feels ordinary until it disappears. The man who always answered, who showed patience when she was unpredictable, who offered calm instead of chaos, that man becomes invisible in routine. But when he walks away, his steadiness turns into contrast. Suddenly, the world feels different. The silence he leaves behind becomes proof that his presence mattered more than she ever admitted. Female psychology runs on emotional polarity. Certainty relaxes the mind, but it also dulls excitement. That's why indifference often follows comfort, until comfort disappears. When the man she took for granted no longer chases, no longer responds, no longer tries to explain himself, her emotional polarity flips. The security she once felt turns into uncertainty, and uncertainty to the feminine mind is magnetic. That's why she begins to value what she lost too late. The moment she realizes she no longer holds influence over his emotions, respect quietly replaces control. She starts to replay their history, not from a place of ego, but from curiosity. She wonders how she missed it, how she failed to see the difference between the men who wanted her body and the one who understood her energy. Every new conversation reminds her that no one listens the same way he did. No one's silence feels as safe. No one's presence carries the same peace. Regret is the shadow of recognition. It appears when the heart catches up with what pride ignored. And for a woman, that regret isn't about ownership. It's about realization. She begins to see that losing a man who valued her wasn't just a relational loss. It was a spiritual one. Because a man who can give without losing himself, love without dependency, and leave without resentment is rare in any era. By the time she sees it, it's too late. He's already changed. The same patience she once exploited has become his new boundary. The same silence she once mocked has become his shield. And the peace she once took for granted is now the thing she searches for in others, but never finds again. That's the quiet punishment of disregard. The pain doesn't hit when he leaves. It hits when she realizes he's never coming back. Section 4. The power of walking away without hate. There's a rare kind of strength in the man who can walk away without resentment. Most men, when they finally decide to leave, do it with anger in their hearts. They want her to know how much she hurt them, how deeply she disappointed them, how much they gave. But the man who walks away without hate isn't driven by pain anymore. He's driven by clarity. He has reached the stage where he no longer needs to explain, convince, or prove anything. He simply understands that love without respect is a slow kind of self-destruction, and peace is the only thing worth keeping. That's the power of walking away quietly. It's not an act of revenge, it's an act of rebirth. Because hate still ties you to what you're leaving behind. It keeps the wound open. But when you walk away with acceptance, you reclaim something far more valuable: your emotional independence. You stop being reactive. You stop negotiating with energy that's already shown you its limits. You start protecting your peace as if it were your final currency. For the woman who took him for granted, this kind of exit is haunting. She expects anger, confrontation, maybe even pleading, because that would confirm she still has emotional control. But when he leaves without bitterness, when he's calm, respectful, and done, she feels something she didn't expect. Emptiness. Not because he's gone, but because his absence carries dignity. His silence doesn't scream, it echoes, and that echo follows her longer than any argument ever could. This is the quiet paradox of respect. It often returns the moment you stop asking for it. The man who refuses to hate remains mysterious. His composure becomes his message. His lack of retaliation becomes his revenge. He doesn't seek to hurt her. He lets the truth do it for him. Because nothing pierces deeper than watching a man you thought you could control rise above emotion and disappear into purpose. Walking away without hate also protects you from becoming what hurt you. It keeps your energy pure. It teaches you that maturity isn't about reacting. It's about choosing which emotions deserve expression and which deserve silence. And that silence, when it's born from peace, not pride, becomes your legacy. It shows her that you didn't leave to punish her. You left to protect your evolution. Eventually, she realizes what your calm truly meant. It wasn't indifference. It was finality. It was the strength of a man who no longer needed closure from others because he found it within himself. That realization shakes her because it exposes a truth she can't undo. The same man she once thought she could hurt now exists in a space she can't reach. And that's what makes walking away without hate so powerful. You don't destroy her. You let her destroy the illusion she once had of you. And in doing so, you set both of you free. Section 5. When regret turns into respect. Regret is a strange teacher. It begins in silence, grows in memory, and eventually matures into respect. When a woman loses the man she didn't value, her first reaction is confusion, then pride, then finally, reflection. It's only after she has cycled through every emotional defense that she begins to see him clearly, maybe for the first time. The same man she once thought was too patient, too understanding, too calm, now looks like everything she can't find elsewhere. What once seemed ordinary now feels irreplaceable. That's when regret slowly transforms into respect. Because true respect doesn't come from realizing what someone gave you. It comes from realizing how gracefully they left when you stopped appreciating it. A man's silence after disappointment carries more weight than 1,000 words spoken in anger. It's not just maturity, it's mastery. It's the sign of someone who has understood that self-respect is worth more than emotional validation. As time moves forward, she begins to reframe the past. The memories she used to dismiss start to replay with new meaning. His calmness during arguments, his patience when she withdrew, his ability to listen without judgment. These details return in vivid clarity. It's as if her mind is trying to teach her what her heart ignored. That's how the feminine psyche processes loss. It replays the emotional footage until understanding replaces denial. And once that understanding arrives, respect follows naturally. But this respect doesn't always come with reunion. In fact, most of the time it comes in silence, when she realizes she has no right to reach out, no reason to ask for closure, no chance to undo what's been done. It's a quiet respect that lives in her memory, the kind that surfaces whenever she hears his name or stumbles upon something that reminds her of him. She won't always admit it, but internally, she knows he handled the ending with grace that few men ever show. That kind of composure becomes legend in her mind. It becomes the standard she compares others to, the unseen benchmark no one else meets. And that's the moment she understands the full weight of what she lost. Not a man who loved her, but a man who loved her without losing himself. That kind of strength leaves an imprint that doesn't fade. This is where the tables turn. The same silence that once hurt her pride now commands her admiration. The same distance she thought was indifference now feels like discipline. And that's how regret transforms. It stops being about pain and becomes about acknowledgement. She may never say the words, she may never apologize, but she'll carry the memory of his calm forever. Because deep down, every woman remembers the man who loved her right, valued her deeply, and still had the courage to walk away when she forgot his worth. Section 6. Why peace is the greatest revenge. In a world obsessed with reaction, peace is rebellion. When you've been hurt, ignored, or disrespected, your first instinct is to prove a point, to show her what she lost, to make her see your worth, to balance the emotional scales. But real strength doesn't come from proving anything. It comes from realizing you don't need to. The man who truly understands his value no longer competes with perception. He simply becomes unshakable. And that unshakability, that calm, stoic peace, is what haunts her long after you're gone. Because peace isn't passive. It's power. It's the decision to no longer give energy to what doesn't reciprocate it. It's the refusal to let bitterness poison your spirit. It's standing so firmly in your purpose that no one's rejection can move you off your path. When a man reaches that state, he doesn't chase closure. He doesn't seek attention. He doesn't replay what went wrong. He simply understands that his silence and composure communicate more truth than any speech ever could. Women feel that energy more than they see it. A man at peace becomes unpredictable, not in behavior, but in emotion. She can't control him anymore, because nothing she does reaches him. Her silence no longer shakes him. Her mixed signals no longer confuse him. Her indifference no longer defines him. And that realization strikes deep. Because when she sees that her absence has no effect, she begins to feel the gravity of what she lost, the steady presence that once gave her balance. That's why peace hurts her more than anger ever could. Anger still acknowledges her. It still gives her power. But peace? Peace removes her from the equation entirely. It tells her that her influence has expired. It says, "I've outgrown what you could give me." And that quiet message echoes louder than revenge ever could. Because while revenge tries to prove value, peace embodies it. The man who chooses peace transforms pain into presence. He doesn't hide from it. He channels it. He builds better habits, sharper focus, deeper purpose. He evolves into a version of himself that no longer seeks validation because he has become his own validation. And as he grows in silence, she starts to feel the shift. The energy she once drained is now feeding something greater. Eventually, she understands what most people never do. That the ultimate consequence of taking a good man for granted isn't punishment. It's absence. And absence born from peace is permanent. Because you can't fight a man who doesn't fight back. You can only remember him. Peace, therefore, becomes the greatest revenge, not because it hurts her, but because it heals you. It restores your direction, your dignity, your dominance. And once you taste that kind of serenity, no past relationship, no apology, and no regret can ever pull you back. At the end of it all, the story doesn't end with anger. It ends with awareness. For her, the realization arrives too late. The truth that what she lost wasn't just love, but balance. It wasn't a man she lost. It was the feeling of being grounded in someone's calm. She'll meet other men, she'll talk, she'll laugh, she'll move. But deep down, nothing feels the same. Because peace has a presence. And once you've experienced that kind of stillness in another person, the noise of the world feels unbearable. That's the real pain of losing a man she didn't value. Not the absence of attention, but the absence of peace. The way his voice softened storms. The way his energy made everything slow down. The way he loved without taking, listened without judgment, and cared without condition. Those things don't leave quietly. They echo in her mind long after he's gone. She begins to realize that the closure she's searching for isn't a conversation. It's forgiveness for herself. Forgiveness for seeing gold and calling it ordinary. But by the time she understands, he's changed. His silence is no longer heavy. It's healing. His detachment isn't distance. It's direction. The same man who once tried to make her see his worth has stopped explaining altogether. He doesn't need her to remember. He doesn't need her to regret. He simply walks with a peace that proves everything he never had to say. That's the quiet power of evolution. It transforms heartbreak into higher ground. The man who was once misunderstood becomes unbothered. He learns that his worth doesn't live in someone's recognition, but in his own reflection. He learns that losing what doesn't value you isn't loss, it's liberation. And that's the kind of lesson that turns pain into clarity, and clarity into power. For her, the memory remains. It doesn't fade. It transforms. It becomes a quiet ache she carries, the silent awareness that she once had something whole and let it slip through her fingers. She won't always speak about it. She'll smile, move on, live her life. But every time she meets a man who's loud, reactive, or restless, she'll think of the one who wasn't, the one who could love with composure and leave with peace, the one she didn't value until he became untouchable. And for him, there's no bitterness left, only calm, because he finally understands that walking away wasn't the end of love, it was the beginning of self-respect. He didn't lose her. He found himself. And that discovery is worth more than any apology, any closure, any second chance. Nothing hurts a woman more than losing the man she didn't value, not because of his absence, but because his peace became the proof of his worth. And once a man reaches that level of stillness, there's nothing left to chase, only peace to protect. Remember, knowledge means nothing without action. If you're ready to rise above emotion and lead with purpose, join the community today at thestoiccouple.podia.com. Enroll once, grow forever.